Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. Welcome to 3 Peas in a Pod, episode 273.
We made it.
Again. And once again, as I introed last week, Nathan is about to put the ball on the tee.
About to put it right back on.
And me and Ed are going to swing, but we might not hit it.
Well, I've seen lots of kids not be able to hit it.
Right. Would the Braves be doing better if we put the ball
right
on the
now.
tee?
Not right
You're
now.
right. They're playing great.
Right now, we could, if the World Series would happen today and somehow we were in it, we'd have a really good shot.
Let's be clear. We're recording this 2 weeks before it actually drops. So things could have changed,
Oh,
Ed.
gosh, yeah. We
Have we're sitting.
We have not scored since
we're on a 5-game win streak today, but we may not be there next
Right
2
now,
weeks.
they are amazing.
That's right. That's right. And we'll just enjoy.
But that is the life of this Braves team.
Yes. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
It is a tough life.
It is why I have to say to you, it's why I love the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It don't make no sense. Teams with best talent don't win all the time. It's unlike other sports.
It's like life, Ed.
Well, in many ways it is. You show up and things happen.
That's right. That's right. So, tee us up, my friend.
Well, I was thinking about your sermon that at this point will have been preached on Sunday, but at this point when we're recording, we haven't heard you give
You don't
it
have
yet.
to tell them that.
Oh, no, they need to know that because I
They know if they watched last week. I got the same clothes
Same
on.
shirt.
And we can say we made it all we want to. What we made is we made 10 minutes.
That's right.
I was going to say, really great sermon, but I haven't heard you give it yet. I've read it. You wrote a lot of really good stuff.
I wrote lots of words.
Whether or not you're going to fumble the whole ball Sunday and they ain't going to know.
I have confidence more than if it were me. I could write really good words and then get up there and the people that watch know. I might say those words.
You might not. You might not.
Jason's going to say what he wrote.
Jason's going to be real close to what he wrote.
I'll try.
Really good stuff about emotional discipleship, which is a topic we don't hear a lot about in the church.
We do not.
It's not a big topic. I can think of a handful of books I've read about it.
Yeah.
And so it's not a very widely talked about thing, especially in the way that you go at it, by talking about dealing with, there are no negative emotions, but dealing with difficult emotions. There are emotions that are a little more.
I'll accept that framing. Okay.
Difficult.
Yeah.
Learning not to necessarily.
That's like there are no negative people.
I don't know about that.
Just difficult people.
But learning not to judge my emotions.
Well, the way I look at it is that there are, I use the term negative emotions because there are emotions that people come into my counseling office and they're like, I don't want to feel this no more. And then there are others who are like, I'd like to feel this a lot.
Yeah.
And so, there are negative positives. But,
attractive and unattractive.
Well, you can say it that way too.
Yes.
But I think in the end, embracing the fact that I have them all is the key to the whole deal.
Well, and some benefit me in ways I don't see them. When I feel sadness over, this was very key for me, I don't know, maybe now at this point about a decade ago, reading a similar book to the stuff you wrote in the sermon, a book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. It was a very helpful book to me, but he talked about the kind of emotions we want to run from of fear, sadness, and anger.
Yes.
And what he said is when something really bad happens to you, feeling sad is the appropriate reaction.
Yes.
It is not a sign that you don't have faith. It's not a sign that you...
There's a lot of it in the Bible.
Yes, right. Well, and he even said something that I know you say in the sermon Sunday, is that God feels all those range of emotions. Anger and sadness. We see in Jesus this, it's the word anxiety doesn't appear in the scriptures in that form, but he felt angst.
Well, as I say in the sermon Sunday, I think Jesus experienced what we now call a panic attack.
Right.
He describes, as he goes into the garden to pray, I am overwhelmed with grief to the point of death.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what most people call panic attack.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So you see these kind of emotions of, and many of us, we end up judging ourselves for these emotions of, well, I shouldn't be feeling that anxiety. Everything's fine, so I shouldn't feel that way. Or,
see, Nathan, if you were in my office, I would say you need to remove that word should from your vocabulary.
Yeah, take that word should out.
That word out.
So
Brene Brown taught me not to should on myself.
Don't should.
There you go. Don't should on yourself.
I like Brene.
Yes. So this idea of allowing all of our emotions to be ways in which we encounter God.
Yes.
That God sits with me in my anxiety, or he sits with me in my grief, or he sits with me even in my anger. That when something, when injustice in the world or to me has happened, being angry about that is an appropriate reaction. It's what we do with those emotions, obviously, that is important. But this idea of, there are these things that most of us, as you just said, people come, I'll go see a counselor because I'm feeling an emotion I don't want to feel anymore. Or something has happened in my life that has brought a lot of mess or pain or whatever. And I just want to clean that up so I can get back to whatever, normal or some other state. And we were saying off mic before we started, that doesn't just happen in the counseling office. It happens in the church world. People, most often you walk into a church, if you weren't attending church before, not you moved to a town and you loved your old church and you're just looking for another church. The reason you go find a church is because something happened or I'm experiencing a level of pain. And by pain, I don't mean even physical, but could be emotional, mental, spiritual. And that's driving me towards seeking help or
looking for a solution. I'm looking for a solution.
That's right.
I'm looking for a solution. We talked about how that's obviously a problem in the counseling world. It also ends up showing up in the spiritual world as well. You talked on Sunday about this idea of Christ wants us to meet him in our emotions, right? The emotions they're not negative or bad, or even a lot of times we get these ideas of deceptive, right?
Yeah. We think that, we can't trust them.
Yeah, if I'm feeling this day, there's nothing I even need to examine in this. But learning to say, I don't have to run from my emotions.
So, Jason, talk a minute about that, sitting with Jesus in your emotion. What is it you mean by that?
I think what I mean is not to bypass it, but to hold it and be curious about it. One of my favorite images that I use with clients is I say, your emotions are like the dashboard lights on your car. No normal, wise person would see the light on the dashboard and go, I need to pull that bulb out, or I need to put a piece of black tape over that so that I don't see that anymore, because that's what I want. I just don't want to see the light anymore. Right. No, a wise person goes, oh, something's going on under the hood. So now I want to be curious. Now I want to look under the hood. I want to take it to somebody who knows how to look under the hood. And let's look under the hood together. Let's find what's turning that light on. Let's talk about that, work on that, come up with the solution to that. And then the light will go off. Right. And then I can move on. That's what I see in the healthy way to handle emotions, is looking at them as opportunities to be curious. And I think if you would be more curious about whatever emotion that you're having, even the good ones, then you are better for it. Because then, and the point you asked about sitting with Jesus, I bring them before God. This is what is in me right now, Lord. Help me understand this in a way that can help me become more of a disciple of you. And then I think this is what Paul was talking about when he said, take captive every thought. We now know, there's a whole other study that just got done. We now know that all emotions are actually thoughts in your brain.
Right.
That cause a physical reaction in your body. And they've identified this in research. And so taking every thought captive is basically every notion, every reaction, every emotional thing that happens within my body, bringing that to the throne of Jesus and allowing his lordship to put that into perspective and to shape it into his likeness is what I want from that. It does not mean that every pain goes away necessarily in the way that we think about it, but it can be used in my devotion and discipleship to him and becoming more like him, like we said last week, entering into that flow of the Spirit where it is all love. Yeah. And so that's what that's a long answer to your question.
No, I think in those terms, well, I 100% agree with what you're saying there. I think in those terms, it becomes a powerful way for me they become opportunities to meet God. I remember hearing I used to lead an alpha course, which is like a beginning to faith kind of course for people who were skeptical to faith. And I would lead through them. In one of the videos, there was a priest on there and he was talking about, he's a Catholic priest, and he was talking about what prayer is. And what he said, every emotion is an opportunity for prayer. He said, even ones that we would call sinful or temptations, he goes, lust is an opportunity to pray. He goes, because if I have a lustful thought, he goes, if I would just stop and go, now, why did that pop into my head? Why did that pop in my head? And then he goes, instead of going, wow, you're such a like perverted man that you would have this thought. He goes, if I instead would stop and go, which is what that began the practice for me that I've shared on the podcast before, that I just begin praying for any woman that I have any kind of lustful thought towards, is I'll stop myself and go, hang on a second. That's a woman made in the image of God. So I'm just going to pray instead of going, what I used to do my entire life is, how could you ever be that person? Understanding temptations are going to come, sinful thoughts are going to come, even emotions are going to come into my head. My job is not to sit and go, how dare you feel that or think that? My job is to take it and go, how do I turn this back to Christ?
Absolutely.
And so sitting in that, my wife frequently, who's much more, and has very much been a help to me, much more emotionally aware person. I hear her say to my girls all the time, which is a learning she's learned of herself, is she said, I've actually learned I'm not scared of almost anything in this life. I'm scared of being scared. And she said, when I get to a place where I realize, someone the other day said to her, because producer Charlie and I are going to be flying to Indianapolis for a work trip in a couple of weeks. And she was like, I didn't know you were flying. My wife is terrified of flying. And she goes, I didn't know you were flying. And someone said, oh, well, why does that bother you? You're not the one going. And she said, she goes, oh, well, and she means this completely sarcastically joking based on her own problems with anxiety in the past. She goes, oh, well, I just have to keep thinking about it forever. And that way he doesn't die. That's what she goes. That's how I make sure he doesn't die. If I just keep thinking about the fact that he is going to die, he won't die. And that's a joke she made, because what she said is, they said, you're actually much safer.
That's a great illustration of what anxiety is. It's my belief that if I think about this long enough, hard enough, and with as much intensity as I can manipulate or prevent this from happening.
Yes, and what she said,
it's ridiculous, but that's what it is.
And that's what she thinks, and what she said.
It'll work right till it doesn't.
Yes. And she said, someone said to her, oh, why, you're a lot safer on the plane. She goes, the plane ain't the issue for me. She goes, the issue is when I'm on the plane, I'm scared. And most of my life, I've just been scared of being scared. I don't like the feeling of being scared. And so now, once again, we don't have any reason to fly. I'm confident should we be able to do those things? So no one needs to come to me and tell me she got to get on a plane. My point is to say,
she's been on a plane.
She'd been on a plane. The point is to say, learning that thing that you're saying of being able to sit, the curiosity to go, what am I actually scared of? Am I really scared of this
And
thing?
why am I scared of it?
And then going, I just don't like the feeling of being scared. And then saying to Jesus, and what I've now learned for at least myself, is a lot of my prayer time is me going, I'm feeling this thing this morning. Often for me, because this is the way my brain works, I don't often know what I'm actually feeling. I'm feeling something. I'm anxious about something. I don't know what I'm anxious about. I'm just feeling a lot of anxiety this morning. And what I'm learning a lot these days is not even, and it may be helpful to investigate that. Let me get to the bottom of what it is. What I've now learned for me that is very helpful is just to go, Jesus, I'm anxious today. And I'm very tempted I know I will be tempted to make dumb decisions or to speak to people in ways I shouldn't speak because I'm anxious. And what this is actually, it's an opportunity for me just to be dependent on you. Because when I'm scared, when you're a kid and you're scared, you go be with your dad, you go be with your mom because you go, they make me feel better. So what I'm going to do instead is go, God, if I'm anxious today, keep my mouth shut a little bit more or keep, whatever the things are I know is going to lead to bad things. And I'll just put up with the fact that for the next 6 hours, I may be feeling a little more nerves than I normally feel. And I don't have to run towards, let me obsessively figure it out.
And I know you guys have all had this experience. I think everybody has, but you take that example. I'm scared about something. I'm afraid of something. And then I usually with that, what I do is I internalize that. I mull over it. I try to pre-plan, or I try to figure out or make everything okay in my own mind. And so that's what I typically do. Or I go to somebody who is safe and encouraging and loving to me. And I say the hardest 3 words I could say. I am afraid.
Yeah.
Right.
And something about that experience with that person who just sits with me and goes, yeah, I would be afraid too, or I have been afraid, and I know what that feels like. And I can't fix whatever it is that you're afraid of, but I'm with you on that, and I can sit here with you. Like if you're on a plane, my wife just flew recently, and they had some bad turbulence, and she got nervous on the plane, and she said there was a lady sitting next to her, and the lady was a veteran flyer, had almost it doesn't even affect her, and she just looked over and she says, "Are you struggling right now?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm having a hard time." And she says, "Well, let's just talk." And they just started talking.
Yeah.
And nothing about the circumstance they were in had changed one lick, but that changed because a connection was made, and an empathetic voice or ear was in play now.
That's right.
That's all that I have had. So many. Sometimes I'll do this. I'll ask somebody at the end of a session. I'll go, "So you feel better than when you walked in here?" And almost always they'll go, "Yeah, I do." And I know it. I don't always say it, but I know ain't nothing changed about what you and I just talked about.
Right. That's right.
You're still about to walk out that door and face whatever circumstance brought you in here. That thing has not changed one bit. But you know what? You've changed.
Yeah.
Because you've had this experience with another presence, and it just happened to be, I'm not special. It's just being present.
That's right.
And that changes everything. And that's what I think as believers we have access to in our relationship with God, in our times of prayer, just in our walking around times. I mean, all those moments where we have access
not just with Him, it's with the body of Christ as well.
And He does it through the body.
That's right. I have access now to people who, if they're in tune with the Spirit as well, I can say to them, "Hey, I'm afraid," or "I'm nervous," or "Would you pray for me? Would you pray with me?" And just those moments become moments of companionship, brotherhood, that give me strength to deal with whatever emotion it is.
Well, as we're taping this, just this past Sunday, we had one of those moments in our service where we just allowed people to turn to one another. And we often say, "Hey, you're not praying for anybody. You're just sharing what's going on in your life that you would like someone to carry before the Lord for you or with you in prayer." And every time I do that, and every time I talk to people who participate in that, there's a power that happens. And it's not just me, but you know it, and we know it together. And there's something about that the Holy Spirit, I think, just works within and provides that extra sense of peace that we're often looking for, especially when you're talking about something like anxiety. That's really what people are after. I just want some peace.
That's right.
From that anxiety. And the peace you're looking for is not necessarily going to come from the change in the circumstance, because, let's be honest, a lot of times the circumstance does not change, or there's not very much you can do about the circumstance. You have a loved one get sick. There's not much you can do about that. You can do all the medical things that you can possibly do, but for the most part, you don't get to control that one. So, but what is the answer to that? Wow. How many times have we sat with people? I've sat with, people I love dearly, and they're watching a loved one die from cancer or from something like that. And I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. I know I got God, but I got nothing that'll fix that cancer.
No.
Other than I'm going to ask God to heal and, all that stuff. But, for right now, I'm just sitting on this bench with you.
That's right.
And there's a peace that comes there that you can't get anywhere else.
Well, and I think in our day-to-day emotional struggles, I think one thing that becomes really powerful, and I know you get to this on Sunday, but I think being able to not, like you said, be curious about my emotion, I think is one part, but then also being honest about my emotions to other people. There is a freeing power in that. One thing my wife and I now regularly say to each other is we just have a phrase that both of us know when we both come and go, "I got to get this out of my head."
Yep.
And if we can go to the other person and just say, "I got to get this out of my head because And we're both much quicker of doing it. And hers is often something about anxiety, about something that she goes, I heard this and it made me think this was going to happen. Or mine will be, I'm insecure relationally about something. And I'll just say, I got to say, and then almost as soon as you're done saying, you don't even need the other person to say something. You go, and that is a crazy thought to have, and I shouldn't have that thought.
That's right.
And I got to move on. Okay, thank you. That feels better. But the part of it that I think is huge is, and I've heard you say this about one of the last times you were talking about anxiety of, the part in 1 John where it says perfect love drives out all fear.
Yeah.
And I heard someone talking about, emotions and certainly emotions are, I know you have what's called the feelings wheel.
Yep.
So there's this like broad spectrum of emotions, but the way that this one Christian psychologist I heard say it is, on a spectrum, there ends, and he says he believes there are just basically attachment emotions and survival emotions.
Okay.
Which are, he said, they're on the two ends of them. He goes, which is the survival emotion is fear. And he goes, that's your evolutionary going, I got it, which is why it leads to anger and leads to all these other things is I'm going to be afraid. And he goes, and attachment emotion is love. And he said, in the Christian responses, he goes, the way to move away from all of those things, he goes, even if I'm deeply depressed, he said, or if I'm dealing with lots of shame, he goes, shame, ultimately the emotion behind shame in his version of it is it's fear, which is the fear that if anyone knew who I was or what I did, they'd reject me away from attachment. He goes, but if you will move towards people, he goes, even if it's a counselor at first, and he goes, you go and I go, I'll pay you money just to hear this so I can say it to you. He goes, and then eventually if you can say it to someone and look them in the eye and go, this is the thing I'm afraid to say to anybody. He goes, their response almost always is deeply loving and accepting. He goes, you move towards that attachment and it does cast out that fear.
Yes. You brought up something that, when we get trained as counselors, one of the very first principles that they teach you, and as a Christian, I just almost laughed when I heard it. But there's Carl Rogers is one of the fathers of modern therapy, and he has this thing that every counselor must approach every client with unconditional, positive regard. When they said that, I went, oh, unconditional love from Jesus.
Right.
That's what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say that. But it is the posture you're supposed to take with everyone.
Yes.
Because of that very thing you just described, Nathan, of having that dynamic with a person of I'm afraid to say this out loud, or I'm going to put and I don't know what's going to happen when I do, is you've got to be the place where essentially you go, that's okay.
That's right.
You can do that in here. It's okay. I don't think of you any less. And that's the thing I hear a lot of people. I've never told this to anybody, and I'm afraid when I tell you, you're going to think I'm a horrible human being, or you're going to think less of me. And then I just go, well, I'm going to do my best, but that's not what I'm going to try and do. And then once they do, and I always say, I'm here to earn your trust. I'm here to earn that. Yeah, earn the right to hear whatever it is you need to bring. And then once they bring it, then getting the experience of somebody goes, I don't condemn you.
Yeah.
In fact, now I know your story, and I know how you grew up, and I know what's going on in your life, and I know what you're afraid of and what's happened in your experience. No wonder, that it feels that way. I would probably feel the exact same way if I were you. And that's not a fake.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you just manufacture that.
No.
I honestly, truly mean that. Because once you do, it's my experience, once you do get to know people, there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of reasons why we do and feel the things that we do. And so you can actually enter into that space and go, like you said, that perfect love that I know for me, whether a person that I work with is Christian or not,
right?
I know where it comes from.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can call that out, and sometimes I don't. But I know that that's the source of all of that stuff, and that's where the healing comes from.
That's right. So. And I think for those of us who are believers, in order to get to a place where I can become a person of healing for other people, I got to figure that out in my own life of how do I lean in towards the vulnerability of being able to speak those thoughts, my own thoughts, not just receive someone else's thoughts. But I find that often the more vulnerable I've become in this life and more open I've become, people tend to become more open and more vulnerable with me. And I think that idea of, even sharing the thing of, I said, this is something I share with my wife, but I'm constantly trying to broaden that circle of, it's not just my wife my wife and I have been together for 20 years. And I go, if it's got to take me 20 years to get to a place I can be vulnerable, then I guess it's just going to be me and her for a long time. If I got to know you that long to get to be.
Well, hopefully over time, Nathan, you are becoming the kind of person who has shed enough of that fear,
right,
that you can be vulnerable with somebody that you didn't have to go 20 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because now if the perfect love is driving out fear within me, I can be vulnerable with somebody that I might have known 6 months.
That's right.
Because why would I be afraid?
Well, and in fact, I heard somebody say this years ago, and I'm not saying I accomplished it, but the word vulnerable changes because if I do become a kind of person that I am convinced that my worth is not at risk, that it's not vulnerable for me to just be honest and open.
No.
Yes.
There's no vulnerability in it because nothing about me that matters is at risk. So that's all secure in Christ.
Yeah.
And I can just be.
That's right. And the more I can take that risk with other people,
the more I can become that.
Yeah. And I'm not here, and let me be very, very clear. There are some people that by your experience, you will know they are not safe to be vulnerable with.
Yeah, that's
sure.
Because there is a high likelihood that won't go well for you because they've proven themselves to not be safe. And we talk about all those things in the therapy space of, but most of us, the people that we do get close to in most situations are safe people.
That's right.
And with the help of the Spirit within me, changing me into, knowing who I am in Christ and the safety that I can experience with Him, I can still learn how to be more and more vulnerable. And the more you do it, honestly, the better you can get at that. Because one of my other phrases that I use is I say, everybody, when they see other people being vulnerable, it looks like strength. But when you do it, it feels like dying.
Right.
Well, that goes right back to, Jesus's language of dying to self, But the more I do it, it's not that it gets less difficult, so to speak, and it does not continue to feel like a death. It is.
Oh, yeah.
But putting things to death in me as a believer should become my way of life.
Yes.
And the more I do that with the help of Jesus and with His love and care for me, helping me be strong in my weakness, His strength through my weakness, I can learn to start daily dying to all of that stuff. The stuff I hold on that keeps me from just being honest with people. I can just continue to grow in that, and I can get better at it.
That's right. And I think if we keep in mind the goal is I want to be a person, the Christian's goal, I get it's not everyone, but the Christian's goal is I want to be a person who is responsive to the Spirit of God in all things. And so I'm not saying I want to get to a place where every relationship in my life, any person I meet now learns every thought I've ever had or every experience I've had, because that's not helpful to the other person, because there are times, and I've met many people that I go, I met you about 10 minutes ago, and I know more about you than I probably should know after 10 minutes. That's not a healthy level of vulnerability either.
That's not.
And so it's not to say what we're not saying. I just don't want people to miss it.
Right.
We're not saying the way to get to is I'm a literal open book. If you want to know anything, you can know.
Well, people that do that kind of emotional dumping, it's not vulnerability. It's pain management. They are trying to they're trying to get rid of the pain by saying it to you. It doesn't work because there is a vulnerability underneath that. There is something underneath that is pushing that.
Yes.
And so I do think what we want to be is I want to be a person that, like Jason was saying, when there's this thing in me that goes, I should be honest about that. If that's the Spirit that's leading that, any resistance I have, that's the moment I try to go, well, just go ahead and just say it then. because if I really feel like this is the appropriate place to be honest about this, that's where I want to, I want to live at, is because I want to be a person where when I'm feeling anxious, I'm responsive to the Spirit's peace that he wants to bring. Or sometimes, like I said earlier, for me, a lot of it, it's learning to be dependent. Because a lot of what I've learned, this is my personality. This is not everyone's personality. My personality is the reason I push emotions down is because they do not help me get stuff done. Mm-hmm. Most emotions do not help fuel me. They are, and I mean, I'm even that way about emotions like joy. They just don't produce a lot of, I can't get more writing done when I'm joyful. I can just sit down and plug into this thing and do it. And so what I've had to learn is if I'm feeling this emotion, instead of pushing it away and depending on my ability to get stuff done, I'm just going to depend on the Spirit of God to go, if maybe all today I'm supposed to do is just sit here and be with you in this thing, and I'm going to do something else that's less productive today, and I'm just going to be sad for a while today.
Yeah, that's right.
Or I'm just going to be anxious today. But that too is learning to be responsive to the Spirit who's going, you don't need to produce things to be loved. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be thought well of by others to be loved. You can be, whether it's vulnerable for you or weak or whatever the terms are that we're all scared of being, learning to be dependent on the Spirit in my emotions. Because like physical pain, those emotions that are painful, they cause us to be dependent. When right now I'm at a place where I had a little operation done on my arm and I can't do as much. And I've had to ask someone, hey, I can't lift that up to there. Can you help lift that up to there? Because it's physically, now I could do it, but I got stitches under here. And when I do that and lift it, it's going to cause more pain. Emotionally, I get to the same place where I go, I could push through this. I could ignore it and push through it. I've now gotten to a point where I realize 2 to 3 days later, I'm going to feel that and it's going to come out in different ways. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I go, I just got to be dependent and say, hey, I'm really exhausted today. And the reason I'm exhausted today is I was pretty anxious about this thing. So no, I didn't get that thing done I needed to get done. Or going to my wife and saying, hey, I know you really want to talk to me right now about this thing. I'm having trouble paying attention because I'm thinking about this other thing. Can you, just hold on. All of that makes me feel weak. It makes me feel vulnerable. But learning to do that, what I learned is now I'm just sitting with the Spirit and going, I'm going to have to trust that your love is strong enough that even if and my wife wouldn't do this, but that's the fear you have, is even if she now goes, well, God, I guess I got to carry all the weight in this family or whatever. Or people at work go, God, I thought Nathan was going to get that thing done. And whatever it is, Christ's love is going to carry me through that. Learning to be dependent, that's tough for me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's a good 30-minute podcast.
Oh, it was a 30-minute podcast. I'm hoping it was good and helpful to someone.
To someone.
Yes, absolutely. We still have room for your questions. Link is in the description if you'd like to control the narrative and tell us what to talk about. Those of you who like to control, you can have a measure of control over us. So send us your questions if you got any. Otherwise, we'll just keep on talking. That's how we do.
That's what's going to happen.
Nathan just keeps teeing it up. Me and Ed, we keep swinging and
swinging.
Maybe missing, maybe hitting a home run. I don't know. But we'll see next week. Bye, y'all.